Right now, the markets are relatively quiet. We had that big jobs report tomorrow,
right?
And normally the markets are.
Yeah, and then you had the jobs report today that was a little better than expected as far as the number of first-time claims last week, and continuing claims go up a little bit. But this is one of those things that even city by city, if you go around the country, the jobless rate continues to go up in almost every measure.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It seems also that it's getting a little bit more like it's a regional story. You can't talk about this economy as in these sweeping ways that we have with some of these data points. Tom Powell is the chief executive at ELP Capital. He's joining us to talk more about the markets and everything else. But Tom, what do you think about that? I mean, are you seeing some different investment opportunities region to region? Is it really this just one story for this economy, or like Dave points out, really, from case to case?
Good morning, Jenna. It is absolutely real estate and other investments are a micro market opportunity. The jobless claims are stated on a national level, and we are starting to see some recovery in certain markets. But overall, now's the time to be looking for the investments. May not be the time to act on the investments, but it's definitely time to be looking for the investments.
Where do you look?
Probably the sector that led us into this was housing, and housing is probably, with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD financing available, with entry-level housing shooting up, with lots starting to be absorbed and there's nothing in the backfill, there's probably a good opportunity for a number of investors in actually some of the worst markets. Southern California is seeing a recovery. Vegas may be a ways off. Florida has some opportunities. You're going to see Texas probably stabilize.
When you go to these markets and you're looking for opportunities, are you talking about investing in real estate or in companies in the stock market that are involved in home building or those sectors?
I think you need to look at both. I think with alternative investments, you need to take a line item approach to it and say, what is of value today? And that's the reset we have to look at. Instead of saying on a global basis, we need to do a reset of our mindset and say, does this make sense? So are there certain builders that fundamentally have enough cash and enough opportunity? Then that's a good investment. Do they have the right strategy to make money? Then that's the right investment. Are they in the right markets? Then that's the right investment. But to take a global approach and say, oh, we're headed towards the recovery, the stock market's booming, now's the time to invest, that's partly what got us into the challenge, without the discipline to research each specific investment.
Some of our viewers are weighing in and saying that they don't expect tomorrow's jobs report to show anything good. In fact, the Wall Street really doesn't expect that as well, as we expect the unemployment rate to go up, but we don't know how high necessarily. But do you think the market has already priced that in, the unemployment situation, more than 10%, even if it gets close to, let's say, 11% unemployment? Has the market already, taken that in and spit that out?
I think the market has put in reasonable numbers. I think what the market is not ready for is any surprises. Confidence has to return to the marketplace for it to continue to grow. Confidence in the capital markets to start doing investment. Right now, this is kind of a tenuous point of moving up. Market may be overvalued from a standpoint of what are earnings truly going to be. Talking to business owners around the country, they're still looking at who and where do they still cut. They don't see this ending right away.
And when you're talking about that, this is why consumer confidence went down again. This is why you're still seeing people worried in the spending numbers we had. We actually showed they were down when you take out the rising cost of fuel. People aren't really confident yet, even though people are trying to say that, well, we're reaching the bottom, the market's going to get better. The average person, I don't know, is really convinced yet.
They see their neighbor that has lost their job. They're concerned. Their employer is coming back and saying, we're going to take a 10% cut. You're going to have less vacation time. We're going to expect more out of you with less pay. And that's what they're seeing on a case-by-case basis. Yes, the news is coming out from the government and saying, oh, everything's getting better. You need to feel confident. But it's like that getting a shot in the butt instead of saying the reality is our lives need to be reset. We need to take a look and say, okay, pare down our debt, either refinance our mortgage, modify the mortgage, get into a new rental, whatever it is, that's on a case-by-case micro basis. And the consumers are tenuously optimistic is what I see.
Interesting point by the Wall Street Journal today, and I want to bring that up as well as talk to you a little bit about what we're hearing out of Washington. The Wall Street Journal says that although retail sales numbers are down, people are still shopping at places like Ross and TJ Maxx. But what they think is that with some of the government programs, incentives to buy homes, for example, incentives to buy the cars, the Cash for Clunkers program, that actually could be taking discretionary spending away from other items. in the economy. So we see a lot of strength in the consumer discretionary sector regardless of this, especially in this little bit of a recovery. Some say it's a bear market rally that we've seen. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jenna, I'd agree. It's not that people aren't spending money. Of course people are spending money. It's they're being more cautious about what they're spending money on. There was an interesting story in our local paper today about the cash for clunkers, that it's actually hitting a local repair shop. And one of our lead senators said, oh, that's sour grapes because they're just not benefiting from it. Well, when do they get their government handout? And that's where a lot of the businesses are looking at this and saying, okay, people are resetting their spending habits. They're not necessarily shopping at the high-end stores. They've dropped to a Target if they were shopping at a Nordstrom's. But the shopping is still happening. It's how do we make money in that type of an economy? What are the right investments to be making? And it's really looking at that consumer confidence. If confidence is not there, capital won't return to the market, and if capital won't return to the market, we have no growth.
You know, can I just jump in here, because Jeff from Baltimore has a question. He says, why do we rely on these consumer confidence surveys so much? How many people do they really sample? How about try to price the market based on fundamentals? Unemployment up, debt's up, housing value is down. What do you say to Jeff?
Joe, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the consumer confidence helps lead the politicians to say, okay, what money do we need to release today to try and get more votes? And that's probably a pretty pessimistic view of it, but the cash for clunkers is truly that, in my opinion. It's okay, what market segment are we going to throw money at today to try and get people to feel better? The fundamentals are there in certain ways. The American population, we have a good work ethic. The people that have been laid off, many of them have found new jobs. They're perhaps underemployed, but they are doing activities to be productive, and as the United States gets into a productive mode, we have better investments.
You think people are getting
It's not
a little
about some
tired?
report that comes out.
You think people are getting a little tired, Tom, about all the movement of the cash for clunkers here, the bailout here, health care reform? Is there a little government fatigue in all of this process?
I think there's not only fatigue, I think there's starting to be mistrust at a larger level, which is not necessarily bad. The people should mistrust our government and make sure that we have a watchdog over that government. And there are watchdog services out there, but the people don't pay attention to that. They pay attention to just simple sound bites. We need to pay attention to what the government is doing and understand how it affects us, not just today, not just in the short run, but in the long run. We have to have that reset overall as a country and say, these are fundamentals, these are what got us to this opulent life that we live, and this is what we need to do to carry that into the future.
Well, you know, you say we should maybe not, you said we should not trust our government, but this is a democracy. We elected this government. Some of us voted yes, some of us voted no, but we still elected them in power. Christina Romer came out today, economic advisor in the White House. She says that the Recovery Act is working. The president is going to do everything he can do to make sure that the economy stays up and running. You wrote this book, Standing in the Rain, about how to survive this economic crisis. So be specific. How do we do it? This is what Washington is saying. They are the elected officials, and they're going to be there for the next couple of years. So you know, mistrusting our government doesn't make us survive the crisis.
Jenna, mistrusting the government is not a negative statement. The government mistrusts us. The people in general mistrust us by putting regulatory agencies. It doesn't say every business person that goes into business or every finance is a bad person. It says we're going to put checks and balances in there. Not trusting is kind of even the old Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. We need to see what's happening with the government and say, okay, I do believe their intentions are good, but what are their actions, and does that resolve into something that is beneficial to the country based on fundamentals, or is it simply an attack to get the confidence level up and get new votes? And I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm saying that's what I mean by mistrust. By what we need to do, each of us as individuals have special talents. And in my book, I talk about take those talents, look around and see how you provide the greatest good to the greatest number of people. And when we do that, that's the economic engine behind the United States. When we do that, when we have that reset, we start producing, we start bringing out new products, we bring out new ideas, and our country grows.
So
it's not about the government.
Okay, you know what? You started a great conversation. A lot of viewers are weighing in on that. Tom, you're coming to us out from Reno. You going to Hot August Nights out there? Do you go to the
I
big
have
car
been,
show?
yes.
Okay, just wondering. You guys know Hot August Nights, right? It's the big antique car show out there. We're going into our next segment about cash for clunkers. So
yeah, none of those are being turned.
I wish Tom was out there seeing that. But I appreciate you talking to us from Reno today, and we'll talk again soon.
Jenna, thank you. Dave, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, Tom Powell, Chief Executive at ELP Capital. Have you been to Hot August Nights?
I have not been to Hot August.
It's like the coolest old car show out there. Anyways.
But
Case in point.
Sometimes where I used to be up in New England, there would be, you'd go by and like at McDonald's on a Sunday, and there'd be all these antique cars.
Had that.
Yeah, same
we
thing.
had that. We had because we had some antique cars in the family.
Right.
Those are not the Cash for
No.
Clunkers program. We hope not. Please don't turn those in. We're going to talk more about that program in just a moment. Rich Edson coming up next.